Where do you go, little bird, when it snows, when it snows, when the world turns to sleep? Do you know? Do you know? Is it something in the wind? Breeze a chill in your heart, life in your wings. Does it whisper, start again? Start again. Where is the sun in the night? Is it cold? Is it cold?
Good morning. Welcome on this Easter morning to Unity Center of Pittsburgh. My name is Philip Borden, and I will be your facilitator. Our singers are Shane McLaughlin and Lucy Clabby, and in just a moment they'll be singing two songs, I Send My Love and I'm Opening Up in Sweet Surrender. I invite you now, when they're singing I Send My Love, for you to send love to people, to ones that you know, to people who are working on the front lines in hospitals. Send your love to them. And when they're singing Opening Up in Sweet Surrender, surrender to the situation, because when you surrender, that's when the power of God is in you. And now, let Shane and Lucy sing for you.
I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my joy over the mountain. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the mountains. I send my peace over the sea. I send my peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. Thanks, everybody. Now we will be opening up in sweet surrender. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous
you, Shane and Lucy. Remember, whatever you send out comes back. So if you want good things to come into your life, send them out. Welcome again to Unity Center of Pittsburgh. Unity is a spiritual movement. We're determined to look at spiritual principles and have a positive and practical application to our lives. It began with basic Christianity, and it's expanded to include any type of spirituality that helps us express the God Spirit in us. Welcome. We have a vision and a mission. Our vision, as you can see on the screen, is to see a spiritually awakened world flowing with divine love. And our mission is that we are an inclusive, loving community dedicated to teach, inspire, and practice positive spiritual living. And now Shane and Lucy will continue singing a song which I think we all know, True Colors.
Hey, everybody. You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small, small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Show me a smile and don't be unhappy. Can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you take it all you can bear, just call me up because you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Oh, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, just call me up because you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors, true colors are shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow.
And thank you, Spirit. that there is no limitation in us. We do believe in a spirit of resurrection and new life every moment, wherever we are, right here, right now. We can create and recreate whatever darkness there is. We can bring light. We thank you for this strength. We thank you for this Christ consciousness, which has been given so liberally to all of us. And so it is. We have a custom where we light what we call the Christ candle, the candle of Christ consciousness. And I think it's wonderful that, whatever spirit we might be struggling with, that we can just light a candle in our hearts. And all of a sudden, there is light. We have that power. So I'm going to light that candle in just a moment, and then we'll be reading the principles. And that's all it takes to bring light. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking. Through prayer and meditation, we increase our conscious contact with God, bringing forth love, wisdom, health, prosperity, and everything good. But knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. You should see an affirmation on your screen in just a moment. I'm going to say it 3 times. It's a wonderful, powerful one. All wisdom is within. I turn within to know all I need to know in the silence. All wisdom is within. I turn within to know all I need to know in the silence. All wisdom is within. I turn within to know all I need to know in the silence. And from the daily word given from Unity, we have the theme of I recognize the risen Christ in family, friends, and my spiritual community. It happens to be my favorite Easter story, one which many people aren't aware of 2 men walking on a road going to a place called Emmaus, discouraged and defeated that nothing was worked out. The one that they loved and had hoped for had died. But then something happened. Early in the evening of the day of resurrection, Jesus, unrecognized, joins 2 of his followers as they journey from Jerusalem toward the nearby village of Emmaus. Accepting an invitation to stay and share a meal, Jesus takes bread, blesses and breaks it, then gives it to his hosts. In that moment, their eyes are opened. They recognize Jesus, alive in their hearts. He vanishes from their sight. Later, the 2 explain to others how the risen Christ became a living presence to them in the fellowship of breaking bread. Easter celebrates the risen Christ, an immortal presence, freed from all limitation, awaiting discovery in every person and life event. I recognize the risen Christ in shared experiences with family, friends, and my spiritual community. And from Luke's Gospel, chapter 24, then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. We normally have children that we love to see, that we love their energy, and they're not with us, but there's many children that we know in our lives and some who are undergoing a lot. So we affirm these children that we know and those that we've heard of. We ask for blessings upon them and protection. And may we know their spirit of faith and hope and love. Now, we normally have a congregational greeting, and on the, I believe it is on the left side of your screen. All right, Matt gave me the thumbs up because sometimes I don't know my left from my right, at least on the screen. And this is an opportunity for you to give greeting to one another, just say hello and have a little conversation, but of course not when Maryann's speaking, except to say how wonderful it is. So just take a moment or so right now to greet one another. And you can do that during the service again, but not when she's speaking. We do have core values, and our core values today is integrity. We live our values of honesty, respect, and ethical principles. As I live my values, I express integrity. The community expressions are this: we hold ourselves accountable to the commitments we make. We accept a diversity of viewpoints in our gatherings and listen to understand rather than to judge or manipulate. We seek the highest good in all our interactions. The personal expressions: as my values guide my behavior, I choose to respond rather than react. I communicate my thoughts and feelings in ways that demonstrate my self-respect and respect of others. I do what I say I'm going to do and acknowledge when I miss the mark. Powerful, powerful statements, hopefully that we can apply to our lives. And this is our time for prayer, for you to be seeking, prayer for yourselves, other people. Also, it's so important to have prayer affirmations. So critical that we're not just asking, but that we're giving back. We are expressing our faith and trust in God, the God who is within. And we affirm, because let me tell you, when we're affirming all the good things in our lives, we see so much good, and it's a lot easier when we are requesting. And in a moment now, Shane and Lucy will be singing Surely the Presence, that we sing here every week.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power, joy and grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
We affirm that no matter what circumstance we're in, even when we are separated, surely the presence of God is within us. Surely the presence of God is with us together, holding us together. And we affirm that we have learned to appreciate how much fellowship and love and being together means. And may we, as time goes on and the weeks and months go on, that we can appreciate in a new way when we are together in love. Surely the presence.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power, joy and grace. There's a holy hush around
moments just to quiet our spirits. Take some deep breaths. Relax. Relax your muscles. Sit in a chair. Feet on the floor. Your hands open. With a spirit of trust. You see beautiful stream and waterfalls rushing. You can either close your eyes or allow that scene and the energy of it to just simply take you to place. Even now, just look at that scene right now. For a little while, I'll be quiet while you just allow that flow to go literally through your body and spirit. Let's do so. Flow within us on this Easter morning. We see literally in our bodies, in our spirits, a flow of life, a flow of light, a flow of energy. We affirm that. And even though we sometimes feel weak, we sometimes feel out of sort, we sometimes feel confused, we believe there is a consciousness, a Christ consciousness in us. And we affirm that that is greater than any weakness in us. Imagine that flow of light, of love, of energy flowing through you even now. Realize you are loved and you are a loving being. And as that love, forgiveness, acceptance flows through you, you can give it out to others. Just imagine yourself that way. Feel the goodness within you. That's who you are. Resurrection power at any time, at any moment. The kingdom of God is within. The kingdom of God is at hand. Let's take some deep breaths. With a spirit of gratitude for all the goodness and abundance that God has given to us, not withheld anything. And we affirm that the only problem is that when we forget this, when we set up our own limitations, for with God there is no limitation. And so it is. Shane and Lucy are about to sing a song called Lean on Me. And I would, in the future, when we're able to get together, you've got to come on down, because all I can say is when they sing and others who sing here, it's so much better when you see it live. Shane and Lucy, Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, I'll help you carry on, for you won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for you won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me if you need a friend. Call me, oh baby, now. Call me if you need a friend. Call me, call me, call me, call me.
Beautiful. You know, what's so important is when you have to lean on God or other people and you receive, remember, someone may need to be leaning on you. We need to pass it on, pass on that energy. I first heard Maryann Hackworth speak at Unity in 2008. And what I appreciate so much about her speaking is that it comes from a lot of study, but always personal applications. And she's speaking about the resurrection story, the symbolic meaning of our time. And I know for sure it's not going to be some lofty, esoteric, symbolic understanding of the resurrection, but something that we can apply to our daily lives. Maryann Hackworth.
So great to be here with you on this Easter morning. I would first of all like to thank Philip for being here today and facilitating this Sunday service. And he and I both agree that it's a lot trickier than it looks to not have eyes in front of us and faces and bodies that we're connecting with. So we keep our eyes on the camera, and we know you're there. Don't get us wrong. But I just want to tell him thank you. He's doing a splendid job. And I also want to thank again Mac Inglis for the great work that he does to keep flowing the service back and forth to Shane and Lucy at home, and back here again to Unity over in the Garfield area of Pittsburgh. Lastly, but also so important, I want to say thank you that Bonita Springs, Florida Unity Center reached out to us to connect and to watch this service. And so I hope there are many of you right now. I want to say hi. My name is Maryann Hackworth, and we are so delighted that you are with us this morning, and we wish you a very happy Easter. This message, I'm going to tell you how it was inspired. We had gotten a flyer from Unity of Gaithersburg, Maryland, for the spiritual enrichment classes that they offer annually. And I was really excited because one of our members had been there a few years ago, and I said, I really would like to go and take some of these courses. And I noticed that one of the courses is in metaphysical interpretation of Scripture, which is something that has always interested me and intrigued me. And I love the way Unity looks at the Bible and stories in it in a much deeper way. So I was telling our office manager, Sherry Owen, about it, and she said to me, yeah, she had taken a metaphysical class once before, and she was surprised to find out that they utilized the Fillmore's Revealing Word, which is Metaphysical Interpretation Dictionary. But the main factor in looking at Scripture and biblical stories is to see them and apply them to your own life experience, to look at the hidden or esoteric meaning behind them. And I looked up the word esoteric, and what it stated in the dictionary is that esoteric means that a truth or a teaching is hidden from the majority of individuals and only understood by a few. And so today I'd like to present this message on the resurrection and bring forth the idea that perhaps these meanings are not hidden from as many as we would think, and that we're all like-minded and looking deeply into the meaning of this resurrection. So as you know, as Philip mentioned earlier, the resurrection stands for the awakening inside of us, the arising of our mind into our awareness of our own divinity, into our recognition that we literally are expressions of God, and the God mind, the God essence, is living as us and through us into this physical world experience. So I'd like to take the resurrection story this morning and take a deeper look at it. As you know, the story begins with three women, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James. And it said, on the first day of the week at early dawn, they came unto the tomb, bringing spices that they had prepared. The first thing that popped into my head when I read that line, beginning story, here it is, where are the men? There are no men going to the tomb. Isn't that funny? I mean, I would have to believe that they have acquaintances that are men that would have perhaps been with them, maybe a cousin, maybe even a relative, but it's only mentioning the females. So I look at that more deeply, and I was thinking to myself, the divine feminine. The divine feminine exists in all of us, whether we are male or female. But what is the characteristic of the divine feminine in us? It is the birthing of our intuition. It is the birthing of our inner guidance system. And it is present here on the Mother Earth, on our physical plane. It is the energy of God, the mother energy of God, which is bringing forth our life experience through creation. So that was my first awareness, looking at this story. And then it said they came on the first day of the week at early dawn. And the metaphysical interpretation of dawn, you can imagine, is the dawning of light in our consciousness. They arrive at the tomb. Now, we traditionally think of a tomb in what way? We think of it as a place of death. But metaphysically, the tomb represents a state of consciousness in which we are resting in the presence of the divine. That state of consciousness where we are taking in information, ideas, things that percolate, things that move quietly, because it's a tomb, so to speak, it's a state of mind, that these ideas are divine ideas, and we're learning through our life experience. Haven't we been doing that since the day we've been born? And do you feel it now even more so, that as you are at home, much more frequently now, you are assimilating your thought processes and looking at things more deeply? Perhaps you're pulling out books and literature or movies or things that you can look at to inspire your consciousness. So they arrive at the tomb, and what comes about is pretty incredible. First of all, it's empty. And what happens is, I like this description. I want to read it from Matthew. I was reading both Luke and Matthew, and let me give you Luke's version. And it came to pass, while they were perplexed thereabout, meaning confused about the empty tomb, behold, 2 men stood by them in dazzling apparel. So that's Luke's account. This is Matthew's account. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. I like Matthew's writing style. I like that imagery that brings forth that something phenomenal, supernatural even, is occurring, because angels have come forth to speak to the divine mind, these 3 women, to the divine feminine. And these angels come forward, and I'd like to ask you something about this part of it. Do you notice that in biblical stories, the Old Testament and the New Testament, there is frequent reference made to angels, supernatural beings that inspire leaders of the time or warriors of the time, teachers of the time are inspired by angels. And at no point do they feel shame. They may feel surprise, they may feel humbled, but at no point are they shamed by the idea of telling someone that they received an insight. So I was thinking about this for our culture of time. When was it that we turned away from listening to that inner inspirational idea that came from a source that we really can't understand, and we sort of push that aside and say, I don't want to tell anybody about that. They may think I'm kind of odd. We're now at Unity doing a course once a month. It's called A Course in Mastering Alchemy, and it has been really insightful. And one of our good friends, Vince Lisi, is the host in the study group. And I just wanted to share with you, this course is brought forth by Jim Self. It's written by Jim Self and Roxanne Burnett, but it was brought forth through inspiration from the elders or the teachers of light. And as Vince so wisely said, if that is a leap of faith for anyone, push it aside. If it sounds as if it's truth, it is truth. Consider the truth and do not worry that the source comes from spirit. This is the description in the book about the teachers of light. The teachers of light work together to uplift humanity into a fully conscious state of alignment with all that is. A common agreement between all the teachers is their commitment to non-interference. This guiding principle prevents the teachers of light from using their superior powers and wisdom to impose their own values or ideals on humans. Fortunately, they do have the unique and powerful ability to patiently show us an image, a turn of a phrase, or a concept that if we are paying attention, it can direct us to what our next steps are. So I just wanted to bring that forward because I'm sure you at home right now don't really have an issue with thinking about angels or supernatural powers bringing forth ideals. But if there's ever been a doubt in your mind, I think it's time now for us to be open. We're going through a major upheaval collectively. And I feel that there is opportunity if we are paying attention for insights and ideas to come to us collectively. So what did the angels say to Mary and her friends? This is what they said. Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen. So, of course, the he is Jesus. And Jesus, as you know, is the perfect expression of the divine idea in mankind. Jesus represents to us our perfect expression that God holds of us, perfect expression of divinity, which is us in mankind. That is Jesus. And the angels have asked these three, why do you look for the living among the dead? So I looked at that and said to myself, why would I look for my perfect expression of divinity in old, dead habits, old thoughts, old ways, old paradigms, these ideas that have existed for centuries about divisiveness, perhaps ideas about the way we run our political systems or our economy. There may be old habits, old ways of practicing that just don't apply anymore. And these angels are asking them, why would you look for that here? You must rise your consciousness to the life within you, to the divine mind in you, to find the living, to find better ways, better ideas. There's a funny story that I wanted to share that really illustrates this. You may have heard this before. There are two women in a kitchen making a roast. Well, the one is making the roast. She prepares it and spices it up, and she cuts the end of it off and puts it in her pan. And her friend says, why would you cut the end of that roast off? And she says, well, I don't know. My mother always did it this way. And she's like, well, why did your mother do it that way? And she's like, I don't know. I'll call my mother. She calls her and says, Mom, why did you always cut the end off of the roast before you put it in? She said, so it would fit in my pan. We don't have that pan anymore. We have a new pan. It's a new time. We don't have to follow practices just because they were handed from grandfathers or ancestors or parents. Old judgments, criticisms, and fears can now be let go because the angels asked the three, the divine in us, why do you look for the living among the dead? So, moving back to the story, what did the women do? They, of course, are absolutely amazed of what has happened to them. They rush back to the 11, the apostles, and tell them what had happened to them that morning. And guess what happens? The apostles don't believe them. They don't. They think it sounds like nonsense. So I was thinking about this. What is the chances that when we express to someone, perhaps it's a colleague or a family member, our neighbor, our children, our spouse, when we express the idea that we are divine beings, that we are spiritual beings, will they believe us? When we express the idea that our thoughts come first to create our reality, that we create from the inside out, not from the outside in, will they believe us? And will that stop us from stating the truth? Just yesterday, someone told me a story. He said, have you heard that they're considering the idea that this virus began in the droppings of bats? And somehow these droppings animals became in contact with the droppings, and then these animals were brought forth into market, and then they were purchased, and then this virus spread into humanity. I did not hear it. I don't even know if this is true. But you know what he said? He said, do you remember some years ago, there was a movie. It was called Pandemic. And he goes, it's so weird that pandemic started with bat droppings. Isn't that strange? I said, yeah. You know, I looked at him and I said, do you realize that the world we create on the outside is the result of the thoughts that we're holding on the inside? I would be thrilled that directors and producers of movies in Hollywood would be inspired to create thought-provoking movies which bring forth this reality and which show us that through the process of our mind and our alignment with good thought, positive thought, we can then bring forth healing into the world. That's what we're being called upon right now. That's the resurrection, is becoming aware and taking action. So these 3 women who came back to their friends and they didn't believe them, this is not going to stop us. We're going to continue on to express truth to anyone in any moment, whether they hear it or perhaps they may be still in that tomb state. Perhaps they're still assimilating ideas and thoughts. And we don't know at what given moment, all of a sudden, something's going to click. And their consciousness is going to wake even more fully and say, wow, maybe there's something to that. Maybe I am a divine spiritual being first and a human personality second. And maybe my thoughts do matter. So anyhow, they tell the 11 this, and this is when a really interesting thing happens. The majority of them don't believe them. There is only one, however, Peter. Peter gets up and runs back to the tomb. And it says, bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away, wondering to himself, what has happened? So think about this. Peter traditionally stands for faith. But you remember that Peter, that was his second name. He first was Simon, and Jesus, divine consciousness, changed him to faith, to Peter, Simon Peter. So actually, what Peter represents in the story is our changeableness. The fact that sometimes we vacillate from faith to doubt. Remember, right before Jesus was put to death, people came up to Peter and said, hey, you know him, don't you? He's like, no, I don't know him. I never met that guy. He denied his own consciousness. Jesus represents the divine mind in us. Why would we deny our own essence? But sometimes we do that. Sometimes we're not sure of ourselves, or we think, oh no, I can't be a divine being. I screwed up yesterday. Or look at my past, look at the mistakes I've made. Why does he vacillate? Why does Peter go back to unworthiness and to worthiness, from doubt into faith? Friends, I think that's really our human experience. And Peter represents the faith that is implanted in us. The deepest part of us has the knowing, has the realization of Christ consciousness. The deepest spiritual part of us is our truth. And Peter, bending down to look at these strips of linen, represents us when we, using our intellect alone, analyze. We look at our life experience for evidence of our faith. It is when Peter brings his intellect with his heart, as we do, that our faith is 100%. So we are hearing things in the news, and it's frightening, and it's sad, and it's upsetting to us. And we must combine the heart with the mind. Perhaps then we turn off the news feed. We go a little bit deeper. We say, yes, this is occurring, I'm not denying, but I know it's for some outcome. I know there's a deeper meaning that this is all happening to us collectively because we're all in this together. How many times have we heard that? We're all in it together. We're all awakening together. So the next part of it actually was the daily word today brought forth. There's two friends at the same time during this day that are walking to Emmaus. I don't know how do you pronounce it? Emmaus. They're traveling to Emmaus. And here's the most amazing part. So if you as a child read this, and I know I read this story is from the time I was in probably first grade or younger. Along comes Jesus. He has risen from the dead, and he joins in and starts walking with his friends. And as a child, you read that story, it's being read to you, and you wonder, why can't they see him? Oh, he must. In the story, it says that their eyes are blocked. I'm thinking, well, maybe he has a disguise on. You know, as a child, you think these things. Maybe he has a cloak over his face. They can't tell it's him. No, the story says their eyes are blocked. Jesus is their own divinity. Why can they not see their own divinity? Their eyes are not seeing it because perhaps they're focused too much on the drama, on the world around them. In fact, the story does line with that because the two of them are talking in depth of what has happened. And Jesus put to death, and this is horrible, and he was our Savior, he was going to free us, and this is just a tragedy. It's very much in alignment with what's happening today. You can get absorbed in those conversations of fear. They don't even see and witness the Christ consciousness right there with them. But fortunately, they said, hey, it's getting late. Why don't you come on back and you can have dinner with us? So there he goes. He sits at the table with them. And this is the part that's metaphysically beautiful. He doesn't know, they don't recognize him until he picks up bread, blesses it, and breaks it and shares it. And all of a sudden the story says their eyes are opened and they recognize, hey, it's Jesus. It's the Christ. Bread, metaphysically, represents the I am principle. Bread represents the stuff. Bread is the manifestation that occurs when we affirm I am principles. When we speak positive affirmations, we manifest. We create with purpose. We don't miscreate. So when we align our mind, our Christ mind, and begin to use statements of joy, statements of gratitude, even in these dark times, we speak statements, I am so grateful for my life right now. I'm so grateful for unity. I'm so grateful for you and for my spiritual family. I'm so grateful for my physical family. I affirm prosperity will return to us. I affirm that we will grow through this and bring forth healing. I speak words that are positive, and all of a sudden, Jesus is witnessed. The Christ consciousness is evident and brought forth. That's what the bread represents. So, these two return back to Jerusalem. The last phase of our story is when they come back to the 11. So the apostles are still gathered together, and these two come in and start to tell them what has occurred and how they witnessed Jesus, who suddenly disappeared again. And all of a sudden, he's in their midst. And this is where beautiful words of Scripture that we have recited for centuries, decades. He says to them, peace be with you. Peace be with you. Why are you so troubled, he said. I am with you, he assures them, until the end of the ages. Consciousness never goes away. The Christ mind is eternal. His words were absolute truth for us now. Feel that peace. Feel the understanding of comfort. He goes on to say, go therefore, he opens their minds through his statements, go therefore and teach all nations. How powerful that is right now. We are being asked collectively to teach the truth of the Christ mind, to teach love, to teach compassion. There was a teacher that came forth prior to Jesus, the Buddha. And 2,500 years ago, he said that the second coming of the Buddha would be the Buddha of love, the Buddha of the opening heart of love and compassion. There is a famous monk, his name is Thich Nhat Hanh. You may have read some of his works. He wrote a book called Peace is Every Step. It's a beautiful book. But he's talking about, in this statement, and I'm going to read it to you, he's talking about a Sangha. And a Sangha, as I traditionally thought of, is a spiritual community. A community of like-minded individuals, those who are in harmony with one another, as he was explaining when he was studying to become a monk. That was his Sangha. But actually, a Sangha can be described officially as a stream of life going in the direction of emancipation, joy, and peace. That is our Sangha. And we are in a Sangha collectively right now. He said, I take refuge in the Sangha is not a declaration of faith, it is a daily practice. We take refuge in our Sangha by meditating, by using these powerful words of truth. We uplift one another in this Sangha. So Cora Fillmore, Charles Fillmore's second wife, she had a statement that she said, the first thing we must do is overcome inertia. And inertia, as you know, is based on Newton's first law of motion. And Newton's law of motion said this, an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion, unless they're acted upon by an unbalanced force. So what's an unbalanced force? It could be a burst of awakened loving energy, and it could be brought upon by an unbalanced force of a virus. Something this catastrophic feels unbalanced to us. It seemed like it just came out of left field and knocked us all off balance, right? So in a way, when I think of Cora saying, we must overcome inertia, or the tendency that we have, she said, to stay in the same pattern of behavior. Something comes along and pushes us off balance. Do you feel that sense right now? That something inside of you has been spurred into action. That is our collective Sangha, my friends. I'd like to finish with the last sentence from Thich Nhat Hanh. He said this, if you continue to exist as an individual and think that happiness is an individual matter, you will not succeed. When you have put your roots down in each other, the feelings of isolation and loneliness will be transformed. You are no longer merely an individual. You carry in your heart all your brothers, your sisters, and your ancestral teachers. And so we do, and so it is. Blessings to you, namaste, and a very happy resurrection.
Maryann, thank you. So powerful. We can hold on to our old ways because they're familiar, but Spirit comes and we have the opportunity to change, to learn new ways. And we can't wait for somebody outside at administration or anything going out there. It has to start from within. But if I may just have a light of brevity, you asked, where were the men? Well, the men were talking about the game and what happened in the game that they just lost, while the women were getting things done. This is our prosperity practice time, and if you get out of your screen of the full screen, you should see our webpage, Unity Center, and I believe it's on the bottom right-hand side. There's an opportunity to give, because like so many other situations and organizations, because we don't have people coming here, it's a very practical need. If we want to be able to continue to minister and serve you, these things need to happen. But of course, those of us who have been at Unity for a long time realize that even though there is that practical aspect, we believe in that spiritual practices that we give. It's an expression of our faith, of the prosperity and the things that we have coming into our lives. So as we give, God gives back. And we have our practice of when we hold our offerings, we say, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. And now our final song, Shane and Lucy, this little light of mine, coming from, again, Jesus said that you are the light of the world. Let that light literally come right out of you and affirm it. No matter how you're feeling, that light in you is a lot bigger than you think. Lucy and Shane.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, this little light of yours, you're gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of yours, you're gonna let it shine. This little light of yours, you're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of ours, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of ours, we're gonna let it shine. This little light of ours, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Look at those smiles. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Have a blessed Easter. See you next week, same time, same channel. Blessings.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun with me, and this is the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Happy Easter.
When it rains, snows in this prairie town, there's a good 3 inches on the ground. It seems I've been losing any peace I've found. I see your face all over this town, but I know you're nowhere to be found. You're far away, safe and sound. Far from this prairie town. You're far from this prairie town. So leaving seems the thing to do. When I'm here, I'm lost in thoughts of you. In my dreams, I'm city bound. Ask me to come to you, to leave these fields and these skies of blue. You know I believe in the sacred ground. I hear a bird chirping up in the sky. I'd like to be free like that, spread my wings so high. I see the river flowing, water running by. I'd like to be that river, see what I might find. I feel the wind I blow, it's slowly changing time. I'd like to be that wind that's swirling, shaped